Okay, this is the Heart Academy video for the two-step inequalities from the worksheet that looks like this. And that's the page after the one-step inequalities from the same little packet from the Kudo software that I've given you. However, this is the first page, so I will start with some of these. Okay, I knew we did some of these in class, but I will start by doing some of the ones that look like they might be a little bit difficult. All right, so here we go. Let me first start with doing one that's not as complicated. I'll start with these two first as a reminder of how we got our answer in class. Okay, so here we go. All right, so remember, I'm trying to get x by itself. I'm going to subtract 4 first on both sides. Sorry about the sloppy handwriting, but again, it's not easy working with a mouse. So I have 2x is greater than or equal to 24. Or excuse me, 20. 24 minus 20. Now, I still need to get x by itself. I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. Okay? Remember, don't change the sign when you multiply or divide. You only change the sign when you're adding or subtracting. So what this happens is this finally gets x by itself, because 2 are going to do one time, but 1s are invisible. Greater than or equal to, 2 will go into 20 10 times. So what I have here is x is greater than or equal to 10. Let me write that neater up here. X is greater than or equal to 10. I will circle my 10. That one needs to be filled in because it says or equal to. I will then take a look at the numbers I have beside it. I have a 9 or an 11. Put those underneath your variable, 9 or 11. Now all you have to do is substitute the number for the variable and see which statement makes sense. 9 is greater than 10. Is that correct? No, it's not. 11 is greater than 10. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So my arrow should be going this way towards the right. Okay? Moving on to number 2. So for number 2, this time to get the variable by itself, I will add 3 to both sides. I need to first do the adding and subtracting first. What happens is I can now bring down my m over 3. That canceled out. Bring down my inequality sign. And negative plus a positive, I subtract, keeping the sign of the higher digit. Negative 6 plus 3 is going to give you negative 3. Now, let me get this out of the way. So here we go. So now what I have is I'm going to get m by itself still, so I need to multiply by 3. Fractions mean divide, so you need to do the opposite of what you see. So the opposite is multiply. I want to multiply by a positive 3. Remember, when we multiply or divide, you don't have to do the opposite integer. So now, long story short, this is all going to cancel out, so leave me with m, okay, and less than or equal to negative 9. I do not flip the inequality sign on this one because the number that I multiplied with, remember, the number that's moving is positive. I moved a positive 3. I move a positive 3. Do not flip your sign. You would flip the sign if you were moving it with a negative 3. Even though a negative 3 is already here, that doesn't matter. Always just concentrate on the one that you're moving. If the one you are moving is negative, you would then flip your inequality sign. In this case, the one we are moving was positive, so my inequality sign does not flip. So basically what I have is m is less than or equal to a negative 9 for this part of your answer. Let me clear this out so you can see the graph. Okay, so what I have here now is negative 9, which is going to be right here. It's going to be circled in, negative 9, and I'm looking at a negative 10 or a negative 8. Okay, so I have a negative 10, excuse me, a negative 10 or a negative 8. Let's read which one makes sense. Remember, in negative land, the smaller number is actually bigger. So negative 10 is less than negative 9, meaning negative 10 is smaller than negative 9, and negative 9 is bigger. That is correct. Negative 8 is less than negative 9. That is incorrect. So my arrow should be going in the direction of the 10, which is towards the right. Number 3. With number 3, and all the ones that you see here with parentheses, right here, I'm just going to do this one as an example. Because with this one, all you're doing is distributing first. Negative 3 times p, and negative 3 times a positive 1. So again, what you're going to do, sorry, I had to pause the video for a second as a student came in for help. So I have a negative 3 multiplied by p. So negative 3 times p is going to give me negative 3p. And then negative 3 times a positive 1, right? Remember this? That's going to give me a negative 3. Bring down the rest of your problem. There you go. So now you go ahead and solve the two-step inequality like normal. You should be first getting rid of this 3 by adding 3 to both sides, adding 3 to both sides. Bring down your negative 3p. That canceled out. Bring down my less than or equal to sign. You have a negative as a positive, which means I'm going to subtract, keep the sign at the higher digit. Negative 18 plus 3 is going to give me negative 15. So this is where I am now. So I still need to get p by itself. So I'm going to divide by a negative 3. Divide by a negative 3, okay? When I divide by negative 3, we're going to negative 3 one time. It's going to be a positive 1. That's why we keep it invisible. However, notice that you are moving a negative number. That means you are multiplying by a negative number. So this inequality sign does what? It flips. And negative 3 will go into negative 15, positive 5 times. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my answer for this one is p is greater than or equal to 5. P greater than or equal to 5. So let me make some space here. P greater than or equal to 5. This is for this one up here, okay? So let's do the graphing. So here's my 5. It should be circled in. My answer choices to decide of it are 4 or 6. Put that underneath your variable, a 4 or 6. Now read which one is the true statement. 4 is bigger than 5. I don't think so unless you're in negative land, which you are not. 6 is bigger than 5. That is correct. So your arrow should be going towards the right. Let's go and do number 5. So with number 5, get rid of the 2 first by adding 2 to both sides. Adding 2 to both sides. Okay? What happens is I have my negative b. That canceled out. Bring my inequality sign. A plus 2 is 10. Are you done here? No, you are not. You should never have a negative variable. So what happens is, remember that negative 1 is invisible? Bring them out, okay? Because now look at what you can do. You can now divide by a negative 1. Divide by a negative 1. And what happens is this. Negative divided by negative is a positive. So see how I ended up with a positive b? Because now my 1 is positive, right? And because we moved a negative number, your inequality sign should flip. Negative 1 will go into 10, negative 10 times. See that? So your answer is B is less than negative 10. B less than negative 10. So here's my negative 10. I will look to the side. So I have a negative 11 or a negative 9. Negative 11 or a negative 9, negative 11, negative 9. Your negative land, so remember, the smaller the negative is, the bigger it actually is. So negative 11 is bigger, negative 11 is less than negative 10. That is correct, because negative 10 is bigger. Negative 9 is less than negative 10. Incorrect. Your answer should be going towards the 11, which is going to be towards the left. Okay, now I'm going to go over to number, let's do number 4. Number 4, distribute first. A negative 4 times a negative 4 is a positive 16. A negative 4 times a positive 1 is a negative 4x. Bring down what was left, which is my 56. Now I'm going to get rid of the 16. Minus 16 on this side, minus 16 on this side. So that now leaves me with negative 4x is greater than 56 minus 16. That should give me 14. See that? And then I'm going to divide by a negative 4. Oh my goodness, I'm dividing by a negative number. So that means my inequality sign will flip. Negative 4 will go into positive 40 10 times, and it's going to be a negative 10. Negative divided by positive is a negative. Sorry, that should have been 0 right there, but you get the idea. So now that I have x is less than negative 10 as my final answer, sorry about the messiness, x is less than negative 10. Okay, so I'm circling mine. Negative 10. I'm taking a look at what I have. Negative 11 or negative 9. Put those underneath your variable. Negative 11, negative 9. Let's go ahead and read our statements. Remember, we are in negative land, so the smaller number is actually the bigger one. Negative 11 is less than negative 10. That's true. Negative 9 is less than negative 10. Not true. So our answer should be going in the direction of the 11, which is left. All right, that's all I'm doing for today, kids. So remember, for number 6, distribute, then solve the two-step inequality. If some of you guys are on number 15, or number 12 rather, actually let me just go ahead and do number 12 since I have a few more minutes left for this video, because if you notice, it's one that has junk in the trunk. So let's go ahead and revisit how to do those. Okay, number 15 has junk in the trunk. That's not this one. Let's see if I can find my number 15. Is this it? Oop. Is this it? Yep. I almost said number 15. I actually meant number 12 on the first page of the two-step inequality. It's number 12. Notice number 12 has junk in the trunk, or you're going to end up doing these, which are distribute first. Remember, with these, see the parentheses, you have to distribute. Distribute to negative 3, distribute to negative 3, and so forth. But this one has junk in the trunk, so let me give you one example of how to do one with junk in the trunk as a refresher. So here we go. So remember, with junk in the trunk, we're actually going to do the multiplication first instead of the adding or subtracting. So I'm going to multiply 15 on both sides. What happens is, long story short, this is going to drop down. I have my negative 9 plus a. My inequality sign, 1 times 15 is 15. There we go. So now what I can do is get rid of the negative 9 in order to get a by itself by adding 9 to both sides. Adding 9 to both sides. When I add 9 to both sides, I have, that cancels out, leaves me a greater than 15 plus 9 is 24. So a is greater than 24 is what you should have for the answer. Good example of junk in a trunk. So again, what I have is a is greater than 24. So here's my 24. Looking at a 23 or 25. Put that underneath your variable a 23 or 25. Let's read which statement is true. 23 is bigger than 24. Wrong. 25 is bigger than 24. Correct. Your arrow should be going towards the right. All right, I'm done. I hope you guys review this as you need. Remember, if you actually need to look at some more of the two-step inequality questions, go visit the last Heart Academy before this one, and I actually do some additional problems on that as well. Good luck. See you tomorrow.